Good morning. I'm Sally Otto, a member of the Board of Trustees, and today it is my pleasure to introduce to UUC our new Director of Religious Enrichment, Meredith Olson. Meredith just arrived in the Tampa Bay area where she will be living and has graciously consented to this interview. Good morning, Meredith.
Good morning.
Meredith, is it all right if I call you Meredith, and what would you like the congregation to call you?
Yes, please just call me Meredith. That's perfect.
Okay. Well, let's start out with a little bit about yourself. What should we know about you and your background?
Well, Sally, I grew up on a farm in central Illinois, and just a few days ago, actually, I was working as a hospice chaplain in central Illinois. So it's been kind of a quick change for me to come down to Tampa Bay. But I come from a small family. I just have one brother, and my current family life is that I have a partner and we don't have any children. So, and we haven't been in Tampa Bay very long. My partner has been here for a year, and I just got here now. So we're trying to get to know people, but it's kind of hard to get to know people in a pandemic, as you can imagine.
Okay. How did you come to be a Unitarian Universalist?
You know, like so many Unitarian Universalists, I believe I was always a Unitarian Universalist in my philosophy, but I just didn't know what it was until I was about 18. And I was raised by United Methodists. My grandfather is a United Methodist minister, but the values that my parents tried to instill in me are very much Unitarian Universalist values. My dad's a farmer, and so connection with nature and care of the natural world was important. And, you know, they treated me that God loves everybody equally and values everyone equally, and so we should too. And so these ideas of inherent worth and dignity were very much part of my religious upbringing. You know, all the 7 principles they just came from parents who identified as United Methodist. And so, but I found that my ideas or my beliefs were outside of what I grew up in. And by the time that I got to be about 18, the internet had gotten to be robust enough that I thought, you know, maybe there are other people in this world who think like I do. And I was able to find Unitarian Universalism online.
Well, I have to say I'm a Unitarian by choice also, but I wasn't as smart as you. It took me a longer time. But I'm very happy to be at UUC, and I'm proud of being a Unitarian, and I'm sure you are too. When did you feel the call to ministry?
Well, as I said, I grew up in a family where religion was really important. So I grew up actually playing church, where I would set up the chairs like pews and have my parents sing hymns and that sort of thing. So it was so much a part of my life that it's hard to pick a particular time as far as a call to ministry. But a call to religious education really specifically came at my first Our Whole Lives training. So Our Whole Lives is a comprehensive sexuality education program that was created in partnership with it was the United Church of Christ and the Unitarian Universalist Association that developed the set of curricula that goes across the lifespan. And so I was getting trained to facilitate Our Whole Lives for middle schoolers and high schoolers. And as I was going through this training, I became so proud of being a Unitarian Universalist, and that our faith would invest in religious education that really supports people in living healthy lives and having good relationships and integrating their values into sexuality. That's where my religious education commitment really sprang from.
That's very interesting. We've been talking about having AL for older citizens. We haven't had that program yet. Are you trained to do that?
I am, and I am so excited about that. I've done a lot of work with older people as well, and I have, like very many of us, I've been looking forward to that older adult curriculum coming out for years now, and it came out last year, and I'm excited to run with it.
Well, we may be asking you about that in the future.
Very good.
What has been some of your experiences with young people? I believe students have learned much from you, but what have you learned from your students?
Yeah, so I did some substitute teaching in the Minneapolis public schools, and most of my experience has been in coaching and religious education work. So I've been a religious education teacher, facilitating our whole lives, and then teaching religious education for middle schoolers as a volunteer before I became a religious professional. But my background is strongly in sports and fitness, and so I coached swimming year round, and I've also coached track and field. And I love sports and love to be physically active. And so those are some of the ways that I've connected with young people. And one of the things, I think in part because I am so physically active, one of the things that I've learned from the students I worked with is really the value of the arts and how much we have to how much the arts can help us connect with ourselves and with one another and imagine what the world might be, to kind of both reflect reality and get us out of reality. And so that's one thing that I've learned from students. And then also I've learned a lot of humility from working with young people. So often, you know, we as adults are trying to teach them ideals, and I've often experienced young people kind of being a mirror of our ideals and doing our ideals better than we do. And so I've learned a lot of humility from them.
That sounds great. What should we expect in religious enrichment this year, and what would success look like?
I think really success is going to look like building relationships within the congregation, and building relationships as much as we can with people outside of the congregation. I'm looking forward to a lot of experimenting and seeing what may work. We're just in such an unusual time right now that it's really about sticking together and getting through this time, supporting one another, building resilience, building community, and kind of experimenting, finding out what will work, getting focused on our mission and vision going forward so that we can hit the ground running after after we can finally get back together, basically.
Which might be quite a while, yes. Will you be using technology and social media?
I will definitely do that. I feel a little bit mixed about social media, honestly. I think it's really important to meet people where they're at. And so wherever, you know, those of you in the congregation, wherever I can find you, that's where I want to connect with you. But I also want to honor that some people aren't on social media, and that, you know, part of religious enrichment is, I think religious enrichment is really about us all being who we want to be in the world and growing into who we want to be in the world. And I see social media sometimes having us not be who we most want to be in the world. And so I really appreciate people, you know, wanting to limit how much they're on social media. And so I'll be looking at connecting with people in a variety of ways.
Good. Are you willing to work hard to get congregants with different viewpoints to a level of shared purpose? And that has a lot to do with how you handle conflict.
Sure. That is helping people to have mutual understanding and respect and to work together. If there's one thing that I could do in my life, that's what I would want to do. That's what I feel most called to do. So I definitely want to work on that diligently. One thing about the idea of working hard that I have struggled with is that I tend to think of working hard as very effortful, and that I have to kind of force something to happen or try to take more control. And so often I think these kinds of relationships and change, you do have to push some. You know, there has to be some intentionality and you know, pushing things to happen, but also, you know, kind of like growing a new human being. You know, all the force in the world isn't going to help the 9 months come faster. You know, some things just take time too. So, so I hope that I will balance both hard work and patience and persistence as well.
Great. So you've told us a little bit how you balance your own self-care with work and family. What does fun look like to you?
I love to dance. And I was thinking, you know, what's the most fun I've had recently? And there's this video, you may have seen it or may not. It's a crab rave video, and it's about a 3-minute video that you can find on YouTube, but it's this animated crabs dancing. And so I was just dancing to it like it was an exercise video. That's really fun for me.
And I have seen that.
Oh, you have?
So I don't think so. What would your friends say about you?
My friends tend to say that that I'm very thoughtful and a good listener, and that I stay pretty calm in challenging situations. They would also say that they're never quite sure what I'm going to do next. As far as, you know, last week I was working as a hospice chaplain in Illinois, and now I'm going to be spending the next 9 months working with UUC, and so in Tampa Bay area. And so that's really exciting for me. And they would say that I always love an adventure, and yeah, I guess just that.
That sounds great. Okay, well, I'm going to say thank you for sharing you with us. We're hoping for success here. If anyone has questions, Meredith's email from UUC has been set up. It is re@uuc.org, and that probably could be put into the e-octogram. Also, it's time to sign up your children for RE, and the best place to do that is to go to the e-octogram and look for the article, and it will explain to you how to do that. And we've been very fortunate. We have had a few children sign up, and we're hoping to build that program, so please add your name to the list. But what we're going to do right now is we would like to review the covenant of right relations between congregants and staff. We're going to read the practical expression of the values of our covenant. And after reading them, I'm going to ask Meredith if she agrees. And I'm also going to ask the congregation if you agree. And this is how we acknowledge and affirm the worth and dignity of each other. When I ask the congregation to agree, you will just need to raise your hand. You don't need to have your mic on. So we're going to look at, as members and staff of a spiritual community, our covenant encourages us to grow in the ideal of loving kindness toward one another. These practical values can help us to anchor the aspirational ideals of our covenant firmly to our everyday lives through intentional practice. We will explore these shared values as possible sources of meaning, guidance, and inspiration. And the first value is generosity, and Meredith will read that.
Generosity. Help one another in need. Serve the community with good humor. Share financial responsibility for our good works.
Listening. First, seek to understand. Hear what is said and listen to what is unsaid. Treat information confidentially.
Engagement. Appreciate others for who they are. Thank them for what they do. Focus on the good and the positive in our community. Participate in our activities and celebrations.
Acceptance. Disagree respectfully. Avoid gossiping, blaming, and shaming. Withhold unsolicited advice.
Inclusiveness. Welcome newcomers with open arms. Be open to all and learn from all voices, theological, social, and political. Seek common ground. Create a yes and culture.
Integrity. Be true to our word. Do what we say we'll do. Act with civility, humility, and forgiveness. These are the core values that center us in our congregation. I'm going to ask you, Meredith, do you agree to adhere to this covenant of right relations that promises how we would want to treat each other and serve the wider community?
I wholeheartedly do.
Good. And I'm going to ask the congregation the same thing. And if you agree, please raise your hand. You do not have to do anything with your mute. Congregation, do you agree to adhere to this covenant of right relations that promises how we want to treat each other and serve the wider community? Thank you. We are hoping for much success for the RE program at UUC and very much success for Meredith. Thank you, Meredith. It was really a pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks, Sally. I look forward to getting to know you more and the rest of the congregation.
Yes, thank you.